Gonna talk to you guys about the macOS UI package, which will help you build native-looking apps targeting macOS. For anyone who may not know yet, Flutter does support desktop, at least in a sort of beta way, but you can build apps that target macOS, Windows, and Linux. I had seen a few months ago just a little bit of background on this package, which is still in progress work. I saw that there after the announcement of Flutter 2, that there were some UI packages for Windows, and that Canonical was building one for Linux. So I asked around and to see if there was one for macOS, and it turned out that there was not. So here it is. I'm collaborating with a couple of great developers in the community on this package, and as I said before, it is a work in progress, but I wanted to show off what we currently have and gather some feedback for what we could do to make this even better and answer some questions. So what I'll do is I'll show you our widget gallery app, which is the example application for our package. And I'll walk through the different things that we're seeing here on the screen and what they are and how they're made. So first of all, we're just seeing here what this window is. This entire content is what we call a macOS scaffold. It is pretty similar in function to what you'll find with a material scaffold. And it allows you to have this title bar area, kind of similar to an app bar for a material scaffold. There are some updates planned, some big updates planned for Scaffold and for the title bar, which will allow this child widget. Currently title bar is a class and not a widget. And this title here, what you see, this text, this is a widget. And it only is in this center placement. And so one of the updates we've got planned is to allow this entire area to be a widget, so we can allow for toolbars, which have multiple buttons in different places. And over here on the side is this sidebar area that lots of macOS apps have, and it is resizable, as you would expect. And this area here is where you can place different content area widgets or resizable pane widgets. macOS apps can often have multiple areas, kind of rectangular areas like the sidebar that are also resizable. And so our scaffold allows for the placement of those resizable panes and content areas. As of now, just putting a regular widget in as part of this children property won't work. It expects a content area or a resizable pane. So if anyone has any feedback on that, I welcome you to let us know on our GitHub, and we'll see how we can potentially rework that. I think that the reason why we did it the way we did is because since macOS apps can have multiple resizable areas, we needed to ensure that only resizable areas were here. But that, of course, doesn't preclude us rethinking that approach and seeing what else we can do. So it's, I'll just see if we can show off putting in another resizable pane here in addition to our content area. Oh, actually, there's already one here commented out that we can reuse. Wonderful. And I'll show you how that will work, assuming it shows up. There it is. If the window is, yeah, so here we can then resize this area. So this might look a little bit familiar, having these different resizable areas. Like if you have a Mac and you use Xcode, Xcode is a perfect example of having resizable panes on the left and one on the right. And so I think that's pretty cool. Next up, here we are on the, so some more interesting things. Here's this about this sidebar is you can put these different items here and it can let you navigate through pages. And we provide a way with this current index and on change property for you to pass in this, in this sidebar items widget that we provide. So you can use that instead of like a list view or something, and that will give you access to this current index and the unchanged, and it will give you the controller. And then you can put in these sidebar items, which are a little bit like list tiles. And you can customize a lot of like the selected color and all that kind of thing. So the full API for that, you can have this leading, you can put in this icon and you can have the text and selected and unselected color, and you can change the shape and provide a semantic label as well, and as well as disclosure items, which are what these are, these expanding and collapsing sections. I'll take a look a little more at title bar too. Title bars can have different sizes. You can have a smaller or larger title bars. So if we do a large title bar, it'll expand the size. Sidebar can expect a min width, a maximum width. You can give it a decoration to customize the colors. You can give it a breakpoint. And what that means is that when you resize down your window, your sidebar will disappear at a certain breakpoint. And you can tell it as well what width to start at when it's first loaded, and you can tell it whether it's resizable or not. So then you can see that little drag area now is gone. And now it's back. So we'll take a look here at what we've got on screen in this first page. These are the buttons that we've got so far. We provide a macOS back button, which you can customize the look as you see here. A lot of pages, a lot of certain areas in macOS will have a little back button up here in this area on the toolbar. And it provides the sort of default behavior as you'd expect of popping a root. We also provide macOS icon button, and some of our widgets have this macOS prefix so that we don't have any collision with the material library or the Cupertino library, or any other particular widget libraries or custom things that people make. The icon button can be a circle, or you can give it a shape like a box shape.circle or a box shape.rectangle. And a lot of icon buttons on macOS will have this sort of square shape, this sort of like squircle shape where it'll have like rounded corners. So that's what we've got this particular one set to. Take a look here at the buttons page. So a macOS icon button can take the background color. You can customize what color it is when it's disabled, the on pressed. You can customize what opacity it is when you press it. We do have to update the animations a little bit to more closely mimic the way they look on actual macOS. We lifted the animations from the Cupertino library just to start with. So if you see any behavior that's a little not like what you'd expect, it's probably because we're either eyeballing something or we lifted it out of Cupertino. So you can customize the border radius, the alignment of the icon, and the box constraints, as well as provide a semantics label, as you'd expect. On a back button, you can give it the on pressed and a fill color and a semantics label. Not much to that one. Now, The next buttons that you're seeing here are called push buttons on macOS. Pretty similar to elevated button in Material. And you can customize a whole bunch of things about this. You can make them large or small, as you see here. And you can customize the color, padding, border radius, again, alignment of the child within, the disabled color, the pressed opacity, and semantics label, just like the icon buttons. Here, we'll take a look at indicators. And some of these are, what we try to do is we try to mimic the latest design language from Apple. So that would be what you would see, how you would see things looking on macOS Big Sur. But Apple has not really updated their human interface guidelines, which is where they lay out how these things look for Big Sur. So some of these widgets, before we realized that, we had implemented some of the some things here. So these are indicators like, so this here on the top is called the capacity indicators, which are kind of like progress bars, and you can tap or drag to change the value here. And then there's a rating bar, and then you can see this widget here, probably most closely matched to the circular progress indicator from mobile. And so if you give it, if you don't give it any values, it'll show up like it looks right here. And if you do give it a value, it'll look like this sort of semi-filled circle, or for whatever the value is. And then that widget here is called, this one right above it is called a relevance indicator. So like if you would see in the Apple store, like if you're buying music or something, like on older versions of macOS, you would see this kind of widget, which would see how popular a song was based on how many people had downloaded. So this is that similar kind of thing. So we'll take a look just at the progress circle just to show how it can be different. If you don't provide any values, then it shows as the spinner, or it's a circle that fills in as the progress continued, like I mentioned. So you can customize the radius, the inner color and the border color, and you can provide a semantics label like you would expect. Now over here for the fields page, we've got text fields. And these look and behave a little bit like the text fields that you will see on macOS. This particular field has a max length of 2, a max lines of 2, which is why it might look a little funky, as text fields do when you make them a little bigger. But you can also set this this clear icon button here, as you'd expect to do on macOS. And this is a text field with borders, which comes by default. And then you can also specify a macOS text field that is borderless. So these have a lot of customizable properties, just like you would expect with a material text field. You can customize the text style, the decoration, align, all that kind of stuff on changed. You can give it a controller, customize what happens when you tap it, the padding, whether it can do autocorrect, different colors and heights and radiuses, and all that kind of stuff is here. Lots of really good. There's a lot of them here, so I'm not going to go through every single one. But a lot of the things that you would expect to have with text field are present here. And it's the same for borderless because it's just a constructor variant on that widget. So we'll take a look at what we've got here in this disclosure. Here are some colors that are specific to macOS. We provide a class called macOS colors. And let's see down here with, so we have macOS colors with a lot of colors here, and some of them will have this Cupertino dynamic color, which allows us to specify a regular color and a dark color, which is very helpful for light and dark themes because a lot of these colors here have either slightly different shades to them when they should be, Apple specifies that, like, let's say this red color. should be a very slightly different shade of red in a light theme and a very slightly different shade of red in a dark theme. And we can also specify things like this label color to be like black in a light theme and white in a dark theme. And this is all done according to the exact shades. We have a Figma kit that we lift a lot of, that we since Apple hasn't really updated their human interface guidelines, like I've mentioned, we have this Figma kit that has a lot of Big Sur looking kind of components and colors and stuff. And so we lift these values from there. So it's a nice big class with documentation for nearly every color that isn't self-explanatory. And another cool thing that you can see here is that we have macOS tooltips. And these are specific kind of tooltips that look exactly the way that they should look, at least according to our Figma kit, in macOS. It's unfortunate that the documentation Apple provides is lacking the way that it is, because then of course it's a little bit of a shot in the dark to get things right. But there's our colors. If you hover over each one on desktop, if you were to run this, you could just hover over each one and see what these are. And of course, you can also go into our code base with, and take a look there. And this here just simply showcases how you can have multiple different items as part of your disclosure control. Now, something here, which shows our newest additions to the package, are alert dialogues, and this I'm pretty proud of because I did these ones, and I had thought that it was going to be much more difficult to do than it ended up being. So it makes me pretty happy to show these off. Here is an alert dialog with a primary action, so you've only got one button. And dialogues on macOS are expected to have the application icon here, and are expected to provide like a title and a message. And then you can provide either one or two action buttons, as well as an optional checkbox to say, stop showing me these alerts, which would be, of course, controlled by the developer to make sure that that happens. But we provide an area in the dialog to provide that functionality. And in this variant, we've got two controls laid out horizontally, our primary and our secondary action. And here they are again laid out vertically. And here, oopsie, we actually have an issue open on this, open by a community member called Wilson, which I really appreciate him opening this issue. Part of the pitfalls of our Figma kit is that we try and size things the way that they are there, but of course specifying a max width in this case provides incorrect functionality. So what we'll do right here is remove that. And there we are. So we provide this area where you can have this don't ask again. And as long as you pass in a stateful widget here, you'll get that functionality. This is not part of the dialog itself. It's just an area where you can provide your stateful checkbox area. And so one more thing I also see that I didn't mention before about sidebars is that you can provide this sort of bottom area to a sidebar, which you can see in an app like the App Store. There's this area down here. And so, yeah, you can see there are some similar looking aspects here. So that covers the example app pretty much and what we've got. And one thing I was going to show is how you can get this working in a real app. One of the other packages that I work on is an SDK for an API that for the Pokemon trading card game. So it pulls in the cards and the details about different sets and packs and things like that. And I was taking a look at making our example app, support macOS. So bring that up here. So here you can see this is the latest set that's come out, and here are these cards. And it's really very simple, and it's kind of, there's not much to it right now, but we've got, I'm using the Bits Dojo window package. Some of you might have heard of that as well recently, given the focus on desktop, which allows removing like this, this title area of a macOS app or a Windows or desktop app. I mean, a Windows or Linux app for that matter, and providing your own functionality and stuff to make it a little bit nicer. Like a lot of Apple apps, let's say for example, the Reminders app, don't really have this area here. So that package allows for removing it and providing the functionality to click and drag and stuff like that. So we've just got here a move window, a macOS scaffold with a sidebar. We're just returning one sidebar item for our latest set. We have a content area with a future builder that grabs the latest set and just has a grid view with the images for each card. And what's particularly interesting here is how you might split apart, let's say, a mobile app and a macOS app. This is a practice I have sort of fallen into when thinking about, okay, if I'm going to make an app and I'm going to support mobile and I'm going to support like web and I'm going to support desktop, and I'm now having like these multiple ways of supporting an app. And what if I want to do Windows as well? And all of these packages or all of these platforms have their own way to target. You've got Material app, you've got Cupertino app, which is kind of not really necessary to do, particularly if you're using Material app, but you can still do that. And you've also got for Windows with the Fluent UI package, there's a Fluent app. And with macOS, there's also a macOS app. So how do you juggle these? Which one do you use? What do you do? So a practice I have sort of fallen into is making something called a sort of platform adapter. And I split these out into their own little apps. It's sort of similar to the concept of what people do with Layout Builder, where they'll say, if the screen size is a certain size, make my layout look like for web or desktop. And if it's a little smaller than that, make it look like for a tablet. And then if it's phone sized, make it look like for a phone. What I've done is sort of split it out by platform and just reuse a lot of the same widgets within these things that you might, within these different platforms apps. So you can see in this platform app, if we're web, return just by default say for the mobile app. And you'll see I'm checking K as web. And I'm doing this first because Dart.io, which is how we check for platform different things, doesn't play nice with web. So checking web and doing something with that first is a way to get around it. And then if we're on mobile, if it's iOS or Android, return our mobile app. And if we're on macOS, return a Mac app. And if we're drilling down further, you can see here's just the Material app. And here is a macOS app. This is also something I actually wanted to talk about as well, to take a look at what this is, because you'll find, again, with these packages that they split it out a lot. So macOS app has all the same kinds of things that you would expect from a Material app. You've got dark theme, and theme mode. We provide our own macOS theme data, which mimics in a lot of ways how the Material theme data behaves. You can give it the home, the debug show checks banner. You can specify your primary color like Cupertino app and Widgets app does. You can give it your title and builder and actions, and you can, give it initial routes and locales and navigator keys and on generate routes and all that kind of stuff like you would expect with a Material app. And with macOS theme data, we've got these light and dark getters, just like Material apps, Material theme data has. And you can see it's all nicely documented, just like Material app does, and we're building these out as we make more. We've got our own typography. Push button has its own theme data, just like Material buttons have their own kind of theme data. We've got divider color, tooltip theme data. We provide visual density, scroll bar. So we try to be as one-to-one with Material as we can be, and we try to fit in with Material as much as we can without any collision, like I mentioned earlier. And yeah, we just specify, like I can specify different widgets to be for like my macOS home widget or my mobile home widget. And then within those, the idea would be simply to reuse widgets across your platform apps. And that's sort of the solution that I've reached for how to deal with the fact that you can target these multiple platforms and how do you manage what you're doing. You could technically build one code base and it would work across all platforms, which is Flutter's tagline, and that's what it does, and it does it really well. But if you want to make it look native, that's when you start to run into a little bit of, all right, how am I gonna do this? So that's what I've got, and I think that if anyone has any questions, I think that now would be the time.